Professor Gwythian Prins, an emeritus research professor at the London School of Economics and former advisor to the MOD, NATO and the UN, joins us now. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Barry.
It's interesting that Boris Johnson confirmed that it actually, really changed the mood in the room, in which case it would seem an incredibly stupid thing for the Russians to do if it just bolsters support against them.
Well, of course, it's an incredibly stupid thing to do, but then Mr. Putin specialises in doing stupid and barbarous things. He has succeeded single-handedly in producing a degree of unity in the free world, which we haven't seen in a generation. And the Prime Minister is absolutely correct that through these sorts of actions, which are prima facie war crimes, he is bringing together a degree of resolve which previously wasn't there. And we are now living, let's be clear about this, we're living through a moment when the hinges of history are really opening quite dramatically. You know, what we've just seen with the G7 declaration, what we're going to see with the NATO summit in the next day or so, I think, are absolutely fundamental geopolitical turning points in modern history.
Yes, it's interesting that the timing of these attacks. What do you think NATO is likely to do in response? Because, countries like Britain have even been reducing their army in recent years.
Well, that's right. And this is going to be a huge challenge. We know what NATO said it's going to do. The Secretary General, Mr. Stoltenberg, has said that there is going to be a tenfold increase in the number of QR, that's quick reaction troops, standing on the steel wall on the eastern border. In fact, we're going to go back to our Cold War posture. And the huge question behind that is how we are going to find the material and the financial resources to be able to pull that into place. We will do it, of course, because it is always cheaper to have strong deterrence than to be thrown into a war, which is a point that the Chief of the General Staff made. But what we really lack at the moment, and it's a serious lack, is a clear grand strategic vision which links together the war in Ukraine, dealing with Mr. Putin, deterring Xi Jinping with his threats against Taiwan, the whole geopolitical environment. Fortunately, last week, the Centre for Brexit Policy did publish a grand strategic report. It's the first one, actually, at a high level to come out taking account of Putin's war. And that does begin to meet General Sanders' request. He calls this a 1937 moment. I think he's not wrong to look at the 1930s, although I cavil about the date.
And what kind of contribution will the Finns and the Swedes make joining NATO?
Tremendous. But let's be clear. Liz Truss was before the Foreign Affairs Committee this morning. The point was put to her that Mr. Erdogan, the president of Turkey, was trying to act as a camel trader for his own interests. But she's quite clear that Turkey will not be allowed to prevent the adhesion of the Swedes and the Finns. What do the Finns bring? They have an army. Many listeners may not know this. They have an army 3 times the size of the British Army. They have an artillery inventory, which is the largest in Western Europe. The Swedes have one of the most capable modern air forces in the free world. They have one of the larger, medium-sized and competent navies. And the mere fact of their joining will turn the Baltic into a NATO lake. This is an enormous own goal by Mr. Putin. None of this would have happened if Mr. Putin had not launched this illegal and barbarous attack on the Ukrainians.
Professor Gwythian Prins, thank you for speaking to us.